Hi, my friends. My name is Freeman. Thank you for coming to episode 15 of my first backpacking trip to Europe. I mentioned that Bob and I kayaked to Lucerne, but I forgot a few of the details. My Uncle Bob reminded me down in the comments, and apparently he is watching this series, so if you're curious on his take, he probably has some very good anecdotes. Feel free to message him down in the comments. I'm sure he would love to respond to you. All right, so one of the very interesting details that I left out in that kayak trip is that when we got to Lucerne, we got very drunk. We each drank 7 tall cans of Swiss beer. 7 cans of Swiss beer after a long exertion of exercise. You could imagine that we were feeling quite tipsy. And we went to Lucerne for a very small reason. You know, Bob just wanted to inquire in some shop about something or other. One of the things I love about my Uncle Bob and a lot of my friends that I actually really admire is that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So if you just had like a small errand to do in the city, you would of course just either put it off or take the most convenient form of transportation, get it done, wham bam, thank you ma'am. Not my Uncle Bob. My Uncle Bob wants to enjoy the trip. So even kayaking to Lucerne before we got drunk, we stopped on the premises of a castle along the way where there were wild blackberries growing really close to the lake. So we docked our kayaks on someone else's yard, literally a castle. Very rich guy. Bob told me it was a friend of George Bush. I have no idea. And we started pulling these just delicious wild blackberries to fuel our way to Lucerne. Get to Lucerne, Bob does his thing, then we get drunk. Beer after beer after beer, and like I mentioned, unlike in America where drinking in public is illegal, in Switzerland and many countries around the world you can drink in public. So you go to the grocery market, get some beers for a very low price, and then you're having fun. And of course in summertime when everyone's outside anyways and it's more beautiful than being inside a bar, I mean, who wouldn't want to drink in public rather than inside a small room, during the day at least. And of course, you know, Bob likes to meet people and tickle people. Yes, that's right, tickle. I remember there were a lot of swans that lived on the Lake of Lucerne. Big, huge white birds. And sometimes you would find their feathers, and these feathers would be very large feathers if they were coming off of their wings. And my Uncle Bob found a huge white swan feather, and I remember him going up to any cute girl in Lucerne with this feather and tickling them from behind, from the side, from the front, and getting the most tremendous smiles out of them. And this is another thing about the people that I really admire, Uncle Bob being one of them. There's a few people in my life that just, it's about the journey, not the destination, and it's also about the sort of what you're bringing to the people around you. Uncle Bob brought so much happiness and fun and intrigue and play and joy. You know, if you come from Southern California, I don't know exactly how you were raised or what your thinking is on this, but sometimes we see abnormal behavior or things that are, we call it abnormal because it's not what you should do. You shouldn't go around tickling young girls with swan feathers. That's a little creepy, right? We have all of these moral impositions on us to just stay in our lane and act normal. Stand in line and out with a mask, and I won't get into that. But Uncle Bob was not that type of guy. Uncle Bob did what he liked, danced when he liked, talked to who he liked, and tickled who he liked. Could get you in trouble, but it was a lot of fun to see that, and to see all of the waves of laughter going through the city was fantastic. But the biggest waves of laughter and the most entertainment that my dear old Uncle Bob brought to the city of Lucerne before we left, 7 beers deep. I mentioned these kayaks are non-self-bailing kayaks. That means that if they do tip over and fill with water, you cannot get the water out unless you tow it to shore and actually hoist it up to get it out. So severe repercussions if you tip your kayak over. And as we were getting into our kayaks, we just like locked them up right next to like a pier, like along one of the wooden posts. As we get into our kayaks and we start kayaking away, this is right next to a very famous scenic tourist spot in Lucerne. This is the height of travel season in the summer, so there's a lot of people out there with their cameras, a lot of people just out enjoying the day, enjoying the sights, and right on this lake, just so gorgeous. And we get in, and Bob was very proud of his kayak acumen, of his ability to use those kayaks as an extension of himself. You know, he never fell. So I was proud that I didn't fall, but he was, you know, very proud of his abilities. And I don't think it extended to when he was really drunk. Now, 7 tall cans deep, as he got inside the kayak, I'm already in. I'm woozy, but I'm holding myself afloat. Bob, he starts to kayak straight and then turn over, fills the kayak, he's in the water swimming, the paddle's going away, and everyone starts to pay attention. We tow it to shore, empty it. Once again, Bob cannot stay in the kayak. Every time he tries to kayak just out of the bay, he keeps flipping over in the kayak, dunking himself, drowning himself, swimming. He's drunk. He's trying to grab the paddle. I have to tow the kayak to shore. So it puts an extra burden on me. It's hard enough just to stay afloat in these kayaks in the first place, even sober. But now I'm drunk, and now I have to actually help Bob's kayak. So it made me feel pretty proud, you know. The master of the kayaks is going down. Although I do say I think beer affects Bob a little bit more than it does me. He's got a little more Native American blood than I do. I'm 6% Native American. I think he's 12%. Anyways, so yeah, and so this entire scenic area around this famous spot in Lucerne is just filled with tourists laughing, taking photos. You get these big lenses, so somewhere out there in someone's family album of their trip to Lucerne, they have pictures of my Uncle Bob flailing in the water drunk, while his very old 1960s retro kayak, probably from America, is just capsized. But eventually, after a few failures, he does find his bearings, and we start kayaking back to Vekis. But it's getting late. The sun is going down. The sun goes down. We have no lights. So we're in the middle of the lake. We're not along the shore. We're in the middle of the lake. It's a big lake. And we're just kayaking to the moon, or whatever moon there was. It was awesome. It was scary, but it was awesome. And like I've mentioned before in some of these episodes, there is a correlation between danger and fun, which is probably one of the reasons why I have so much fun with Uncle Bob, because he chooses very dangerous activities to engage in, like kayaking very wobbly kayaks in the dark in the Lake of Lucerne without a light. Anyways, we start getting close to Hertenstein. We're not there yet, but we're getting close, and we start, before that happens, while we're in the middle of the lake, Bob capsizes. Oh my God, right in the middle of the lake. He tries to get his kayak upright, but it's too filled with water. It's impossible for him to go on. So he says, Ryan, tow my kayak to shore. And we're really far away from shore. It's dark, no light. I have everything I need to do just to stay upright myself. We're drunk as fuck. And he just starts swimming to shore, leaving me with his kayak. So I have to hold the kayak. You know, I think there might have been some rope or something like that. Maybe I tied it to it. Maybe he helped me tie it to it. I'm not sure. But basically, I had to tow this waterlogged, water-filled kayak through the middle of the lake all the way to shore while Bob was swimming on. And I still remember his strokes. He's a pretty good swimmer. I will give him that. And normally he's a great kayaker, but this was not his finest hour. So we tow it to shore. We empty it. Now we decide to stay along shore because this was actually our worst nightmare, that something like that would happen. We were in the middle of the lake in the dark, drunk, and luckily we got through it, no drownings. We've emptied the kayak, but we're exhausted. It's been a very long day. And we kind of skirt along the shore. There's probably another 30 minutes left to this kayak trip. And all of a sudden, these lights shine on me and Bob. Very bright floodlights from the water. Another vessel, a larger vessel, probably big enough for half a dozen people, motorized, comes up with these massive lights, and over a megaphone it says something in Swiss German. I cannot understand what they're saying, but just these blinding lights right on me and Bob. And I don't speak Swiss German. My uncle speaks Swiss German, so I look to him. I'm like, what's going on? It's obviously some sort of authority. I don't know if it's the police, the Swiss Coast Guard. It was the Swiss Coast Guard, I assume. Some type of control authority. And I looked to Bob to see what's going on. You know, I'm not the type of person to run from the cops. At least at that time, I wasn't. But I looked to my Uncle Bob, and I see he looks, and he's just in pure instinct mode, and he just kayaks away into the darkness. He just leaves the radius of their floodlight and just slithers off into the darkness like a stealthy panther or snake. Leaving me, his 21-year-old nephew, who's just over here on a backpacking trip, who speaks no Swiss German, who doesn't even know the laws. I didn't even have the common sense to think that you would need a light. I didn't even compute. And so I'm not going to run away from the cops. Everything that you learn as you go up through education in America is don't run away from the police. It'll only get worse. You've seen cops, the people who run away get the dog sicked on them or they get beat up. I'm in a kayak, I'm drunk, you got me, okay? So I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm yelling in English. They keep responding in Swiss German. There were a couple tourists. We were probably near a hotel or a walking path near the shore, and some of them yelled over in English. They're saying, you need a light. You're very stupid. You need a light. You're very stupid. Some very disparaging comments towards yours truly. And I was like, you're in violation of the principles. And this people are translating across, and I just like, when in doubt, what would Bob do? What did Bob do? So I kayaked as hard as I could right after Uncle Bob into the darkness. And they didn't follow us, thank God. Eventually, probably thought it was a bit more of a headache. When people see Uncle Bob, in fact, he has stories of where he would take his kayak and go head on with the ferries and then turn at the last second going, acting like a wild Indian. So some authorities, some police, whenever they would interact with us, sometimes they would take a look at Uncle Bob and they'd just go, I don't know if I want to deal with that. That's just a little out of my ken of experience. So I don't know if they just didn't want to follow us or it wasn't that serious. But we got away from the police by kayaking away from them, get back, and of course, celebrate. So I just wanted to add that story. It probably was from the last kayak trip. Maybe it was from another one, but it happened around this time, and I hope that you enjoyed. And the next story that I'm going to bring you is going to be equally wild and but much more mischievous. So bear with us. And if you have any comments or questions for Uncle Bob, he has a great memory and a better storyteller than I am. Put it down in the comments. Thank you for watching.